Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Jill from Jersey, so welcome. This is a lot of people, so I'm a little nervous because when I came early to make sure my PowerPoint was ready with my videos and my song, and it hadn't downloaded. So when we get to the anxiety section, I'll just be like Exhibit 1. So no pressure with 162 people registered. So I became interested in mental illness when my cousin Tommy was diagnosed with schizophrenia. So I was a teenager at the time, and he grew up in a very religious household. So his hallucinations and his delusions were very religious based. He, thought that he saw and spoke to Jesus. So I said to my mom, I was like, well, isn't that like every other page in the Bible, seeing and talking to Jesus? And she said, well, yes, but she explained what, mental illness is. So I remember going into the basement and looking at our Encyclopedia Britannica and looking up schizophrenia, which I think was about a paragraph at that time. Just that experience and dealing with him over the years, I do feel that did lead me to go into forensic psychology as my college major. So these are the learning outcomes. I'm not going to read them to you, but the bottom line is we cannot not talk about mental illness and mental health anymore due to employee wellness and just due to, some of the struggles that our court users are having. So I chose this topic because whenever staff are struggling speaking with someone who is exhibiting signs of a mental illness, they always come and get me. They just say, Jill, you just have a way of talking to them. They breathe a sigh of relief. You just seem to speak their language. So then I thought, well, how can I best, present this topic? And I was actually in the car singing the song one day, and I said, this is exactly how people with mental illness feel. Some people. It illustrates, auditory and visual hallucinations. It says, tomorrow might be good for something. That's because most mental health symptoms are not present 24/7. Right now you can't tell, but stick around, then you might see. Not all mental health symptoms are shown at all times. And then, he talks about feeling paranoid. So I just feel like the lyrics exhibit how people with mental illness feel about themselves. They're not crazy, they're just a little unwell. They're people with, personalities, families, hobbies, interests, and, it just seems to get that down really well. So how common are mental disorders? This is the prevalence in our population as of 2021. So 162 people registered for this class. I don't know if that's how many are in here, but 1 out of 5 adults in the United States live with a mental illness. So if we do the math, carry the 1, that comes up to about 32 people in this room who may, be suffering with depression, anxiety, even something like bipolar, situational disorder. So mental illness is one of the most common diagnoses in our country. It's a diagnosable disorder that impacts emotional behavior functioning and or thinking patterns. And there are 300 different diagnoses. And they range from episodic to chronic and, mild to severe and everything in between. Depression is the most common, followed by ADHD, PTSD, and anxiety is also very common. So these are the general signs of mental illness that you may see, within the first few minutes of interacting with someone. I'm just going to go over a few of these. Poverty of speech is when the person is not speaking or engaging. They're very quiet. This is present in depression, schizophrenia. Pressured speech is speaking very quickly, jumping around topics, not stopping. It's very unorganized. That is usually found in bipolar disorder, but also schizophrenia. Disorganized speech is just illogical, rambling speech that doesn't seem to follow one topic. It's kind of like all over the place. That's found in schizophrenia, but also any kind of psychotic episode. An inappropriate attire, it can be inappropriate for the weather. My example was going to be wearing shorts and flip-flops in February, but I live in New Jersey, so if that, you saw that here, it wouldn't be inappropriate. So I guess that would be for here would be, wearing like a North Face jacket in the middle of July. Or the person could be wearing objects as clothing, like a trash bag for a dress, a tinfoil hat. So we're going to be focusing on serious mental illness, and that is mental, behavioral, or emotional disorder resulting in serious functional impairment that impacts the person's daily activities. So these stats show the prevalence. So if you notice, it says the prevalence is higher among females than males. Now, I actually think that is skewed and it's more equal. Does anyone have a guess as to why females may be higher when they're probably equal? Right. Females tend to, go seek help more than a male. Now, what about our younger people? Why would they have the highest prevalence compared to, say, the 50 age range? Well, it could be COVID. It could be COVID. But it's also the same reason as the females versus males. The older generation was less likely to seek help and get, a diagnosis. Even, with my cousin Tommy, his parents are very religious. It took them years to believe that this was an organic brain disorder and not like a personality flaw that he could just like pray away. And he was diagnosed probably about 1990. So this is the mental health continuum, like all health, even, diabetes. If you have diabetes and you're watching your weight and you're taking your medication and you're watching your diet, you're going to be on the low risk end. If you're not doing those things, you're going to be on the high risk. So when the person is functioning healthily, it means, they have no distress, like they have healthy mental functioning. And then it goes all the way up to, someone suffering from serious or severe and persistent mental illness, and they have severe and persistent functional impairment. Now, based on the person's, internal and external faculties, they're going to move up and down this continuum based on what their current life circumstances are. So when the person is under stress, they may go towards the red end. And what increases stress, even with someone that doesn't have any type of mental illness, is going to court, obviously, having to show up, see a judge, talk to someone. So mental illness does not equal violence. People who have mental illness are actually more likely to be a victim of violence rather than a perpetrator. So if I could get you to impart to your staff and to realize yourselves is that people who have a mental illness are the same as us. They have hobbies, they have family, they have likes and dislikes, they have personalities, they have senses of humor. I once asked my cousin, I said, what does Jesus wear? And he said, a Phillies shirt, because we live outside of Philadelphia, and he loves baseball. And I was like, really? And he's like, no, like, I'm totally messing with you. He's like, and he said he wears like the robes and the sandals, like your typical Jesus garb that you would think about. But, basically everyone's, if someone has a mental illness, it does not define them as a person. Like we would never say, oh, Joe the diabetic has court today, like everybody be on their toes. But we will say, Joe that schizophrenic is coming on Tuesday, like who's going to deal with them? So one of the handouts I have in the app is, ways that you can use language more sensitively. Joe has schizophrenia, Sally, has bipolar disorder, not saying, Sally is bipolar. So these are the main classifications of mental health disorders, signs and symptoms. This is what we're going to be looking at today, what the person, what you'll see, how you can recognize it, and how we can best effectively communicate with each disorder. So the first one we're going to look at is thought disorders, and that's where the person's thoughts and language are disordered or illogical. So these are just the common signs and symptoms. So we went over some of these already. Hallucinations and delusions are actually two separate things. So hallucination is a sensory misperception where the person feels, sees, smells something that is not there. A delusion is an altered belief or reality, like, my mother wants to kill me, the president is a lizard, the CIA is following me. Now, delusions actually, they do tend to follow the person's experience. Like my cousin, always had kind of religious delusions and hallucinations. We have a woman who comes into the court and she thinks she's Donald Trump's illegitimate child, and that the CIA and Secret Service are plotting to kill her. Now, that was probably not her delusion in 2005 because he wasn't in the media like he is now. She might have been Ronald Reagan's illegitimate child back in the day. So they do seem to follow like what's kind of going on right now. So illogical speech is called word salad. That's typically seen with schizophrenia in someone in a psychotic episode. It's interruptions in thought that causes the person to jump from one topic to another. So if someone comes into the court and they say, pollution is really bad, Los Angeles has a lot of pollution, I have to wait at the bus station and buses cause a lot of pollution, I have to wait in line at the DMV, I have to wait in line at the court, I hate waiting, and I don't like pollution. So what is that person saying? Anyone? What is their actual message? What's the meaning? Right, they don't like waiting. They've been at the courthouse and they don't like waiting. That is what the person said. So we're going to be looking at the thought disorder schizophrenia. It is chronic and severe. It affects how the person thinks, feels, and behaves. The person seems like they've lost touch with reality. It is, not as common, but we typically see people with schizophrenia at the court. It is more prevalent in males than females. It is usually more severe in males than females. I have a theory on that we'll go over in a couple slides. It usually manifests in males in their late teens. My cousin Tommy was a freshman in college. With females, it's usually mid to late 20s that they start exhibiting symptoms. So these are just, again, more characteristics of schizophrenia that we went over. They tend to have poor hygiene. Sometimes they can go the other way and they can take a shower like 5 times a day. They typically use substances, alcohol, marijuana, sometimes opiates to cope with their symptoms. So first we're going to watch a clip from A Beautiful Mind. So A Beautiful Mind is a film about John Nash, who was a genius-level mathematician. The film follows him as he starts at Princeton University, freshman year of college. He gets recruited by the Pentagon to work on like a cryptography program. He finishes that. That was actually real. He did that. He then goes to MIT, starts, lecturing and still studying, and he gets recruited by the Department of Defense to work on a secret Russian, classified assignment. Now, this is a delusion. He also starts to see a roommate and his roommate's niece, and these are also hallucinations. So he eventually, starts believing that the Russians are following him, they're going to kill him. He has a psychotic break and he ends up hospitalized. He then is released from the hospital on medication. He starts experiencing horrible side effects, which we will discuss, and he secretly stops taking his medication. He then goes right back into having symptoms. So this clip is going to show some of his hallucinations and some of the things he went through.
John?
Turn it off. Turn off the light. Why would you do that? Why would you turn the light on?
What is wrong with you?
You have to go to your sister's. And leave the car at the back. Make your tea Commonwealth and those side streets.
John.
Stay where it's crowded.
John, I'm not going anywhere.
Let me get to your sister's. You wait for me to call you.
No, I'm not going.
Just get your things.
I'm not leaving.
Stop! Stop it. Please, Alicia. I'll explain when I can. Charles? I didn't mean to get you involved in this. I'm sorry. Charles? Prodigal roommate revealed. Saw my name on the lecture slate. You lying son of a bitch!
Who are you talking to? Tell me who you see.
How do you say Charles Herman in Russian? How do you say it in Russian?
There's no one there, John. There's no one there.
So when someone is experiencing a hallucination, that is what it looks like to them. The person doesn't look like a ghost. They look like an actual human being that walks and talks, has a odor, right in front of them, just like a real person. So next, I'm going to show you a role play video that I developed with a coworker, where I'm interacting with someone who appears to have schizophrenia. I'll do it. Hi, Mr. Harvey.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, my name's Jill. I'm a supervisor here. You wanted to speak with somebody about an issue you had?
There's an error with my court order.
Okay.
It says that I was convicted of felonious aggravated assault, but it should have only been a misdemeanor. I talked to my attorney. My attorney assured me that it was just a misdemeanor.
Okay. Do you mind if we have a seat?
Sure.
Okay.
I don't know exactly who I would talk to get it changed, but
Well, I can definitely help you with that.
I appreciate that because it's really going to impair me from getting my position as a casino owner. I really want to own a casino and kind of be pit boss and help run security and stuff like that. So I need this fixed because it's a problem.
Okay. Well, sometimes mistakes do happen, so it's not completely unheard of for, this is called a judgment of conviction.
Okay.
So it's not unheard of for something like that to be, to have an error, because human beings do create them. So what I can do for you is I'll listen to the record to see what you pled guilty to, and then I'll make sure it corresponds to what it says on the paperwork.
Can I just tell you what I pled to? And go on to becoming a pit boss and a casino owner and everything? I'm almost there. I have all the money saved up. I didn't assault the officer. It wasn't like that at all. I may have pushed the dog or something like that, but it's totally different. My attorney assured me that it was going to be, misdemeanor, and the attorney he strongly recommended from, my family, and they said that he was going to take care of me really well. So I don't understand how that could happen.
Well, I'll definitely. It's not that I'm not taking you at your word, but we do have an official court record, and I can pull your paperwork too, because there might have been. If one doesn't match the other, then something might have happened. If it's not an error, though, if the judgment of conviction is correct, I can then give you those options as well to see if you can get the matter reconsidered.
It's an error. I just need it fixed, please.
Okay.
Please.
Well, I'll definitely check it out. And is there somebody I can call that if you have any questions, like I can tell them what happened today?
You can call my sister.
Okay.
I got her number. I'll give it to you. I can have it ready when you come back out with the paperwork.
Okay.
I would appreciate that.
All right, so that's what I'll do. I'll look at your paperwork. I'll listen to the court event. I'll make sure they match, and then we'll call your sister today together, and then we'll tell her, why you came to the courthouse and what the outcome was. And I'll give you a copy of your paperwork right now, and then I'll also mail a copy to your sister just in case.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, so this is actually a real situation that I had when I was the criminal division manager. A gentleman had been transferred. I was the fifth person that he spoke to. And he was saying that he didn't plead guilty to a felony. He only pled guilty to a misdemeanor. And he could not buy a casino. He could not be head of security at a casino. All anyone heard was, I'm going to buy a casino and I'm going to be head of security. And by looking at his record, they knew that likely was not true and that he could be, delusional. But they didn't listen to what he was really saying, which is, I remember pleading guilty to a misdemeanor. This says I pled guilty to a felony. Now, do we make mistakes on paperwork sometimes? Oh my God, completely unheard of. Yes. So I truly did listen to his guilty plea and his sentencing. I just wanted to make sure both were correct. I gave him a copy of both, and a auditory copy, a tape of it. I made sure his paperwork was correct, because that might not be a delusion. His problem might not be a delusion. So did I do anything right when I interacted with Dan?
Sort of jive, you didn't sort of get affected by that, where I think some people would really, like you said, focus on the part of the story that doesn't really make sense, but you really were just actively listening to him.
Anyone else? You could just shout it out and I'll repeat. Oh, or not.
You treated him in a believable manner, as opposed to telling him, no, you're wrong. All of my colleagues already told me you're wrong. You just stuck with the facts. You're going to check it out. You're going to help him to know what he needs to do to get things corrected. And I thought it was good that you also got him started on the process of getting someone else involved. So there would be an advocate there that could help out.
All right, thank you. Anyone else?
You also...
Oh, sorry.
You also made him ask him would he mind sitting down. When you have someone sit down and you remain calm, it helps to de-escalate any type of situation than him standing up that could create more chaos.
And this kind of piggybacks off what she said. You maintain calm demeanor even though he was agitated. You didn't allow that to agitate you.
So does anyone remember what I did when he said he was going to buy a casino and be the pit boss? Right. I asked him if he had like someone I could call, but did I say, you're not buying a casino, dude? Right. You just try to focus the person back. So when interacting with someone with a thought disorder, I always invite the person to sit down. I don't say, do you want to sit down? I say do you mind sitting down? Would you like to sit down? I don't say sit down. However, I always talk to the person face to face, not with a barrier. Now, however, I work in a very safe courthouse that has security screening. They are extremely strict with the security screening. I take off my belt. One time I was like, there's only an underwire bra left. I can't take anything else on. I don't know why I'm beeping. So, I mean, we have very good security screening in New Jersey Superior Court. So, you know, for you, this might be a case-by-case basis. You know, if you don't feel safe, obviously you would not do that. I always introduce myself as Jill and a supervisor. No one knows what a trial court administrator is. Nobody knows what a court administrator is, what a deputy is, what a division manager is, but everybody on the planet knows what a supervisor is and what they do. So just keep it simple. First name and just supervisor. With someone with a thought disorder, you really have to do what I call listen between the lines. You kind of have to decipher and do a little bit of an investigation to find out what their real problem is, because they're going to throw in a lot of, you know, extraneous information that is just not relevant to the conversation. Just always clarify their problem to make sure that you did get it right, you did decipher correctly. Explain options slowly and plainly. I always give the written information if there is written information, but I also mail it because someone with schizophrenia is likely to lose it, or they will bring it back and it has like writing everywhere on the back, front, and all different kinds of directions. Always ask if you can call to relay information to someone, even if they don't have a family member, because some people have lost their family, especially if they refuse to take medication. But everybody has someone. They might have their social worker, they might have a roommate, they might have a friend. I always call that person and say, Joe came into the courthouse today, like he was concerned that his paperwork was wrong, and said, you know, I'm going to look into it. Can I mail you the same information that I gave him? Now, obviously, I worked in criminal. None of this information is confidential. So that would kind of be a case-by-case basis as well. Do not agree with hallucinate. Yes? Mm-hmm. If you can't, then that's fine. So her question was, how do you explain something if the person really won't let you get in a word otherwise because they just keep rambling? So you can just keep, I hear you. Don't worry, we'll work this out together. I got it. You know, I hear you. And then you might not be able to explain options to them. You might just go straight to the follow-up plan and say, do you have someone that I can call and tell them what your options are? But usually you can get in like one or two options, but you have to give it time. I mean, like, you can't rush this communication. That's one of the biggest things, is you have to take the time and you really have to go the extra mile. So if someone says, you know, oh my God, there's a spaceship behind you. You know, don't say, oh my God, that spaceship is huge. You know, like, thanks for telling me. Because like I said earlier with the Unwell song, no one's symptoms are present 24 hours a day. So when they have a lucid moment, they're going to be like, Jill says she saw that spaceship I see sometimes. Like, I can't trust her. Like, I can't believe what she says. You know, it's better to say, like, what does it look like? Where is it? You know, I mean, my cousin Tommy said, I know you don't see Jesus, Jill, but I see him. And I said, I believe you. I believe you see and speak to him. Don't disagree with delusions. Did anyone see American Nightmare on Netflix? It's a real story, and it's about a couple where the wife was kidnapped and assaulted. And when the husband reported it to the police, they didn't believe him. And then when they then she was released by the person. And, you know, they also didn't believe her. And they accused them of having a shared delusional disorder, which is where usually it's spouses, can be parent and child. You know, one develops this like delusional idea, like, you know, I'm secretly married to Brad Pitt, and then like I convince my mom I really am. Like, you know, you share the same delusion. So they, accuse this couple of having this shared delusion because they swore this didn't happen. They were making it up. They were both mentally ill, but it was true. It happened. So you never know with delusions. You can't disagree with them because this guy really could be a millionaire. Are there millionaires out there that could buy a casino who have schizophrenia? Yeah, I'm sure there is. I mean, so you can't just assume that what they're saying is incorrect. Maybe their mom does want to kill him. Moms kill kids all the time. I mean, you never know, but just don't disagree with them because you never know. And also that is their reality. It's just better to help them focus on what the real issue is. So a mood disorder is a serious change in the person's mood. It's definitely they're the most common diagnoses today. But again, this is not just I'm a little sad today. This is, when depression interferes with the person's daily life, they're not functioning. So these are the different types of mood disorders. We're going to focus on bipolar disorder. So bipolar disorder is creatively called either bipolar 1 or bipolar 2. So bipolar 1, the person has very extreme manic episodes, very, very, very highs, but they don't always have a low. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. Bipolar 2, they have less severe manic episodes, but they always have depressive episodes, and their depressive episodes tend to be more intense than bipolar 1's. So it's just kind of like a difference. If they get super manic, they're bipolar 1. If they just get mildly manic but super depressed, they're bipolar 2. When someone is manic, it is like an alcoholic blackout. They do not remember. They gamble their second mortgage loan away in 24 hours. They have risky sex. They do not know what they're doing, but they have a great time. But then the thing is, their depressive episodes can be very debilitating. They can be so depressed that they're catatonic. They end up hospitalized. They can't get out of bed. So we're going to watch a video from Homeland. Has anybody seen Homeland? I think it's on Showtime. So it follows the story of CIA agents. One of them is Carrie Mathison. She has bipolar disorder. I would diagnose her with bipolar 1 just because she has very high highs. So when she's in a manic episode, she engages in risky sex. She works 24 hours a day. She doesn't sleep. She doesn't have the need to eat. She has these outlandish ideas about herself. She's the best CIA agent in the world. She's the only one that can solve this case. No one else can do it. So this clip is going to show after she's hospitalized, after she's sat up for 48 hours, putting together boxes and boxes of evidence.
Yeah, there you are.
Hey, how you feeling, Carrie?
Is it tie-in? Are we going?
Going?
To work. We got hop too. We got to haul ass to Langley. They have to understand, Saul. Nazir's movements in green after fallow yellow, always creeping towards purple, are methodical, meaningful, momentous, and nuts.
Okay, I'm going to get you a bit more Ativan to settle you down.
I don't need to settle down. Tell him. I'll tell him.
Carrie, you're not yourself.
Of course I am.
No. I can't follow you. You're talking very fast. Your thoughts are running together. All these ideas. I can't understand.
Yeah, I'm fine.
What happened? Are you all right?
Yeah, I'm fine. I just had to get...
So Carrie does have depressive episodes, and she normally ends up being hospitalized when she has a depressive episode. So now we're going to watch a role play where I role play with someone who appears to be in the throes of a manic episode.
Hi, good morning.
Hi, good morning.
Hi, I'm here to pay parking ticket.
Okay. All right, let me look it up for you. All right, so it looks like it's gonna be $34.
Mm-hmm. It's all there, $34.
Oh, we're paying in pennies.
Please. That's all I can scrounge up.
Oh, wow. Okay. All right. So what I'm going to need you to do, usually I need these wrapped up.
Can I just say that painting behind you is absolutely gorgeous?
Oh.
Is that a horse and a barn?
Yeah,
That
very
green
relaxing.
is the most vibrant green I think I've ever seen. That's a beautiful painting.
Okay.
You know where he got it?
I don't. It's the city's painting.
Okay.
But back to these wonderful pennies.
Okay.
Normally we need them wrapped up. So, they usually come in the wrappers and 50 cents.
Like when you go to the bank?
Yes.
I don't understand why you can't just take the pennies. What? I
Well,
have an appointment I need to get to. Do I really have to be here for all this?
sir, this is a lot of pennies, okay? It's a lot of pennies, and
Right.
I need to make sure that you counted them out correctly, and then I need to make sure that we get the correct amount. So we're just going to work together as a team.
I don't
I'm
understand
going to have you
why
slide
can't
them
you just
out.
count them though? Like you don't have like a change machine?
No.
Pour them into or anything like
No,
that?
this town's not that fancy. I'm sorry. No. All right, so I'm going to slide this right back to you. We can count it together. We'll count it together.
Can I talk to a supervisor or something? I just can't.
Sure.
I
All right.
understand
I just want to slide that a little bit more towards you. Hold on to your money. Let me call the supervisor, all right?
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Joe, I'm going to need you to come up to the window, please. All right, thanks.
Good morning, sir. You
Hi.
have to speak with the supervisor?
Yes, I'm trying.
My name's Jill. How are you?
My name's Dan. I'm trying to pay this parking ticket, and for whatever reason, they're just not taking these pennies off my hands. I mean, I counted it. It's the $34 that it's supposed to be. They're saying I have to stay here and count, but I have an appointment I need to get to. I'm getting my meds adjusted, things like that. I don't understand why I need to stay for all of this. I just don't get it.
So it's not that we disbelieve you that that there's $34 in there, but there could be coins in there that are rare that maybe when you see them again, you might, consider paying with the pennies. There could be more than $34 in there, and we don't want to take more than $34 from you. So that's why we have to count them out together to make sure it is $34.
Do you have any idea how long it's going to take? Because, like I said, I had like 15 minutes, I think, is my appointment. Do you think we can get it done in that time? I don't know.
Well, do you want to come back another time when you don't have an appointment? That might, you could bring the pennies back. I mean, you're not late on your payment. You still have, about a week to pay this ticket.
I guess, yeah. Can we try to start counting, and then if we aren't going to make it, can I come back with the pennies?
Of course,
okay.
of course,
All right.
of course.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Don't worry, we don't count
5,
the whole $34.
6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Well, it's a Canadian. Oh, Canada.
See, that's why we have to count them together. So you're at 11.
11,
The next one will be 12.
13, 14, 15. This is taking too long. I'll come back. I'll bring the pennies back.
Is there someone you might want to bring with you next time that could help us count the pennies?
My mom helps me out with a lot of stuff. I can try to bring her back. Maybe she can even give me some other change or some cash to try to get this done quicker.
Okay.
I'll try that.
Okay.
And that painting, by the way.
It's a great
really
painting.
nice.
I love horses too. Let me give you my name and number. I'm going to give you my business card, okay?
Please.
And if you want to, you can call before you come to make sure I'm here. And you can just come right to the window and ask for me. My name is Jill, okay?
Thank you, Jill. I appreciate it. Thanks.
Okay. Have a nice day.
Thank you.
So again, this is an actual scenario I had when I worked at one of our municipal courts. Really, I don't think that guy was in a manic episode. He was just kind of like a jerk, and he, was PO'd that he got a ticket, so we kind of amped it up a little bit. But just to give some credit to my coworker actors, I gave them a 2-sentence thing of this is what the scenario is, and this is all 3 of the scenarios are ad lib. So they really did a great job. So Dan is our team leader over our mental health caseload and probation. So that's why, he even brought his own pennies to the. So when interacting with someone with a mood disorder, again, I invite them to sit. He really didn't even let me get to that point. Again, you still have to listen between the lines a little bit because they can ramble a lot, though they usually are saying things in reality. They just ramble a lot. Explain options, offer them written information and mail it. They, might lose what you give them, but it's just better to mail it. If you believe someone is in a manic episode, you really should try to reach out to their social worker or their family, because the higher the high, the lower the low. So if they're in a manic episode now, within the next couple of days, they're not going to be able to get out of bed and they might be suicidal. So I don't call and say, hey, Sally, your brother Bob was in here and he was like totally manic. Like, I'm just letting you know. Just say, Bob was at the court today. He came to pay his ticket. He had pennies. We have to count them. And he said he didn't have enough time. Like, is it possible you could bring him back? Or maybe, go to Coinstar and, exchange his pennies for actual cash. And then just say something like, I just want to let you know, he seemed, a little agitated. He was speaking very quickly. He seemed a little distracted. Like, trust me, they know exactly what you're saying in between the lines again. So, but it is very important to let that person know so they can watch out for that depressive episode. So anxiety disorders. Has anyone seen the movie Inside Out 2? So they added a new character because the character is now a teenager. They added anxiety. And, some anxiety disorders manifest during teenage years. Separation anxiety, even general anxiety could be PTSD. So anxiety disorders are also some of the most commonly diagnosed. So some anxiety is productive. Like my anxiety today, I was like, oh my God, we don't have the PowerPoint with the videos. Like, we got to get Hop 2. I was finding people, like if I just shut down, we wouldn't, have the videos. But when anxiety becomes uncontrollable and when it's, rooted in illogical fear, and it interferes with the person's daily life, that's when it becomes a problem. So, if I have this belief, my husband's going to die, my husband's going to die, my husband's going to die. Could he die? Yes, he could get hit by a bus. He could fall off the roof. But should I really be obsessing about this and worrying about this? No, it's not realistic that, I need to waste hours and hours on this anxious thought. So the signs and symptoms of anxiety can mimic medical disorders. Just think of when you're anxious, you feel it in your stomach, you feel it in your shoulders. Millions of people a year end up in the ER with a panic attack because they think they're having a heart attack. So, if you know anybody or if you've ever had a panic attack, it can feel like you are dying. So obsessive compulsive disorder, obsessions are recurrent thoughts that are, uncontrollable. And then compulsions are the repetitive behaviors that the person engages in to reduce their anxiety. So does anyone know a movie that portrays OCD? Hopefully someone has seen this movie. As good as it gets, thank you. Thank you, someone that's around my age that has seen the movie. So there's different subtypes of OCD. So Jack Nicholson, the character, he has contamination obsessions, harm obsessions, symmetry obsessions. The other subtype is where the person just has obsessive thoughts, but they don't engage in compulsions. They don't, do any behaviors. They just have these obsessive thoughts over and over. And then the last one is hoarding. So we kind of all know hoarding now from A&E and TLC. But, hoarding is where the person just sees potential and value in everything and they can't throw things out. Their environment becomes unlivable. So I always say that we should take hoarders and like put them in college to be a teacher or a social worker because they see value in everything. Like, so they would just really see potential in people and be very positive and be like, you have value, you have potential. Like, you know, we're not throwing you away. So that is like my, you know, if I become president idea. All right, so while we're watching As Good as It Gets, just try to identify like what compulsions Jack Nicholson engages in due to his obsession. So if you haven't seen the movie, Jack Nicholson is a famous author with OCD in New York City, and he gets, you know, thrown into a couple different life circumstances that really interact with his like calming routines.
One, two, three, four, five. 1, 2, 3, 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Hot. Hot. Hot.
Excuse me.
Whoa, don't touch. Don't touch.
Get a light.
What? Don't touch. Hey.
Good evening.
I need a coat and tie.
Well, come on in.
No.
No.
That one.
This one.
That one, yeah. And this tie.
All right, so what were his repetitive behaviors where he dealt with his contamination obsession? What did he do? Right, washed his hands with 2 different kinds of soap. I don't know if you saw, but he had a perfectly nice pair of leather gloves that he threw in the trash because he had worn them once. What about his harm obsessions? What did he do to deal with them? Right. He locked and unlocked the door, I think it was 5 times. You know, 5 must be like, you know, it kind of has like some kind of magical meaning. You know, everybody kind of has a different number. He turned the lights on and off, right, 5 times. And then what about symmetry? It was actually this last. Right, the floor was not uniform. And if you've seen the movie, you see like they show the inside of his apartment and it's like everything is just like immaculate and perfect. So, I mean, everybody say, you know, some people say like, oh, I'm so OCD, like I organize my pantry all the time. I totally have OCD. So you probably don't if you can leave the house and, you know, before organizing your pantry. So I have a friend who, you know, the Keurig, like the tray with like the little circles. So she has to have every pod lined up perfectly. So like I'm a horrible friend and I turn like every 5th one cockeyed. And, you know, so I was at a party at her house. I did this to her. And she saw it almost immediately, but she was able to wait until like the next day or whenever, when everybody left to fix it. You know, so like she doesn't have OCD. She's just very particular about her, you know, Keurig cups. So when someone has OCD, I mean, this really monopolizes their life. It monopolizes their time. They spend hours cleaning things, you know, washing. I actually have another cousin who has severe OCD. I mean, she carries around like 6 pairs of underwear in her purse in individual Ziploc bags, and she changes her underwear like every like 2 minutes and 2 hours and 5 minutes or whatever her, you know, number is. She does every load of wash 4 times. Like, so she does laundry every day. She washes her sheets every day. I'm like lucky like twice a month. I mean, gee, sometimes I can get to like once a month. I mean, like she would probably never walk into my house because she'd be skeeved out. But this just monopolizes so much of her time. And she just can't let go of these rituals because the reason people engage in these compulsions is because they are keeping the world safe by doing this. They're keeping their family safe because they could have a thought like, my mom will die in a car accident if I don't do the laundry 4 times. Like, so they're like, that is how they're justifying doing these behaviors. They're actually like trying to keep their family, keep the world, or keep themselves safe. So post-traumatic stress disorder, we should, working for the court, all be familiar with this. We work with so many people who have trauma. This is just a set of symptoms that is, caused after you endure an intensely stressful, stressful event, war, assault, rape, witnessing something, witnessing a murder. And some people have repeated traumas. So it can be episodic where the person is assaulted and then they develop symptoms and then after time and some therapy they go away. Or it can be chronic and lifelong if the person has experienced, multiple traumas. So here are the signs and symptoms of PTSD. Hypervigilance is where, the person's always scanning the room. They're always looking for danger. They're just very aware of their surroundings. They can't relax. Exaggerated startle reflex is when, you walk up behind someone and they jump 5 feet, you tap them on the shoulder. They have, intrusive thoughts and, recurrent memories of the event that are called flashbacks. Everybody's familiar with them. So I was on vacation with my husband and I think it was Mexico, and we did like zip lining in the middle of the rainforest. And they took you there in like one of those uncovered like old military buses where you sit like on the back, like with the 2 benches, like MASH. Someone said, I can't believe you still watch MASH. That's like the greatest show, but just think MASH. Hopefully you know what it is. So I looked across and there was another couple across from us, a little bit younger than my parents' age. The husband, his face was white as a ghost. He was dripping sweat. He was panting. He was just like looking around. I said, he is likely a Vietnam vet experiencing a flashback. I mean, he's taking a diesel truck into the middle of the jungle. It's humid, you can't see very far, so I mean, hopefully he took care of himself, and hopefully his wife realized, but sometimes we can see when someone's experiencing that. So we're going to watch a clip from American Sniper, and that is a movie based on a true story of Chris Kyle's life, and he was a marksman with the Navy SEALs. He had 255 kills, and he served 4 tours in the Iraq War. Now, just think about serving like 1 tour in a war and not even being a sniper. I mean, just think of that level of trauma. He did that 4 times and he was a sniper. Definitely like a quadruple impact.
Chris. That's you. It's your face again, babe. That's good. It's different. So the game's is Saturday. He's the tallest kid on the team. Doctor said he could be 6'4". Isn't that insane? I go so crazy though when the other kids jump on him. Like I need there, but I love it. And maybe you could even coach. Kenna's gonna lose that tooth, and I'm so worried she's gonna swallow it, like in your sleep or something. And she said she'd let you pull it, but only you. Would you do that?
All right, so what symptoms was he manifesting in some of these clips? Flashbacks, right? He was having auditory flashbacks. Hypervigilant, watching everything. He responded very aggressive to a situation that didn't require aggression. He seemed very withdrawn from his wife. He was not even listening to her. All right, so this is an interaction that I'm going to have with a court user who seems to be experiencing some anxiety.
It's ticket number 123456.
Okay, let me look that up real quick.
Okay, thanks.
All right, so this ticket, you do actually have to appear before a judge, but we could let you appear on Zoom, which would be, you see the judge on your cell phone or a laptop, so you you wouldn't have to come physically into the courthouse.
Okay, so let me just make sure what you said. So I wouldn't have to come in. I can do Zoom. Is that what you said? Zoom? That's
yes,
that talking to people. Like I don't even know if I have Zoom. I don't think I have it.
So this Friday, yes, you could appear by Zoom, and you would have to download the app onto your phone. You would just search in the App Store, and then you could look on the internet and get the meeting ID and the password. But what you could do is, I'm actually working this Friday, so you could call around 8:30, 9 o'clock. You can ask for me. My name is Jill, and I can walk you through it right then when you're going before the judge. I can give you the meeting ID. I can give you the password. You would just literally have to push the Zoom icon on your phone.
Okay. So I can download Zoom. I think I can get my friend to help me with that. I download Zoom. I can call you. You can help me through the steps. Now, are people going to be able to see me? Like, is everybody going to hear this? Like, I'm just.
Well, some people will be able to see you, and your name will be on the screen. But when you have your actual court date with the judge, other people wouldn't see you. I mean, is that a concern of yours?
I'm just really nervous. It might be, but I'm just really nervous. But maybe if I call you in the morning and you walk me through, and then I guess like the judge will be on my phone screen. Is that how it works?
The judge would be on your phone screen. I mean, I can try to give you a more specific time so less people would be on. I mean, normally normally there are, say, about 100 people on this court date. But I could give you a time later in the day where there wouldn't be as many people. So, you would be one of very few people that would be on the screen if that's a concern you have.
I'm Jill, right? You said
yes.
Your name was Jill. That would be so awesome. Can you just give me like a time when I can sign on, and then just there won't be too many people? It just makes me really nervous. It's so stressful. It's so stressful, but that sounds better than, signing on first thing.
All right, so when interacting with someone with an anxiety disorder, they may come across as angry. I mean, Janelle didn't, but they may come across as angry at first. Just let them vent. Don't take it personally. They're not going to come out and say, I have an anxiety disorder. They're going to call and say, I can't come to court, but they really don't have a reason, or I need a postponement. They can never come to court because it causes them too much anxiety. So that's like your biggest indicator. So when interacting with them, if they start to get too hyped up, I mean, I offer to take a break. I offer to get them water. I really like the water option. Water, sorry, that's how everybody else says it. You can tell where I'm from. So I always offer the water option because it gives me a break too. Like I have to leave and go get it and then I'll bring it back to you. You know, you can offer to call someone that could be on speakerphone, a supportive person. So when they're constantly calling for a postponement or saying they can't come, you know, this can become an ADA issue. So with someone who has a thought disorder, they're not going to say I need an ADA accommodation. They don't even know what that is. They're going to know in the back of their mind, I have a court case. I don't know, you know, I sort of know what it's for. I can't remember when I need to come. You know, they're going to show up at the counter or call you and they've missed their court date because they're not organized enough to remember it and show up. But they're not going to ask for any kind of like accommodation. They're just basically going to find out that now they have a bench warrant and you need to help them. Someone with a mood disorder, you know, if they're in a manic episode, they won't even remember your interaction, so they're definitely not going to ask for an accommodation. And when they're in a depressive episode, they're in bed, so they can't even call. They're not going to, you know, they will just miss their court date. So anxiety disorders is where you're going to get the most, you know, requests for accommodation, even if they don't come out and say it, because they're going to say, I can't make it to court. I'm too nervous. I'm stressed. I can't do it. I can't get my paperwork done. I need more time. So we cannot indefinitely postpone court dates, but we can try to accommodate the person. You know, maybe they can be seen on video rather than in person. You know, if it's possible for their case. If they have to come in person, there are other options. You can bring a support person, you know, with you. Like when you have a stressful appointment, do you take someone like your mom, your friend, your sister? You can bring them to court. They can be with you. You can offer frequent breaks. You can offer them a later appointment in the day when there's less people there and when they don't have to wait as much. So just be cognizant that when interacting with someone with an anxiety disorder, it may become an ADA issue. So why don't I have a slide of a movie clip that shows depression? It's because every movie about depression has a happy ending, you know, and it's usually when the person finds love, like even As Good as It Gets, very good representation of OCD and its symptoms, but he gets better at the end because he falls in love with Helen Hunt. So, you know, most of the movies about depression, you know, they're good, they show the symptoms, but there's always a happy ending, and that's just not always reality. And, you know, this is what people think when they watch these movies. If they don't have education or experience with mental illness, you know, they're going to think like, well, just pull yourself up by your bootstraps, just snap out of it, just find you know, go on a dating app and find someone, you'll be magically cured. Did you have a...
I always thought Igor from Winnie the Pooh was good. Example, who's depressed and never ever
Yes, yeah. So I don't know if anybody knows, there's kind of like a conspiracy theory behind Winnie the Pooh, but they say like each one of them has a, you know, I think Tigger is the manic one, and Eeyore has like the depressive episodes. And all right, so why don't they just take their meds? I mean, it's just so easy. You just pop a pill and you're like magically cured. So people don't choose to be mentally ill, but they do choose how to manage their symptoms. But, you know, they also have to have access to resources. Medication is very expensive. They have to be able to afford it, and they have to be willing to use the treatment. Side effects of psychological medication are extremely debilitating. So, you know, if we have a young lady, you know, who's just been diagnosed with bipolar disorder, she's 22, 23 years old, you know, wants to go out clubbing every night, we give her a pill now that's going to manage her symptoms, and she's going to gain 50 pounds with no change in diet or exercise. And she's now no longer the life of the party on Saturday night because she can't get out of bed. She's so exhausted because, you know, she she, has so much drowsiness. So, then you take a 19-year-old male diagnosed with schizophrenia and you give him a pill and he's now impotent. So these are extremely debilitating side effects. That is why a lot of people, do not take their meds. Luckily my cousin he obviously had episodes where he stopped taking his meds and then he usually would get into trouble. But, his parents basically gave him a bottom line, like, you cannot live in our house unless you take, your medication. But they had to stay on top of him. They couldn't just give him the whole bottle and then hope he does it. They made sure he took it every day. So, you also have to have some supervision too, with the, when someone has like severe and persistent mental illness. So tardive dyskinesia is another severe side effect of long-term antipsychotic medication use. There's actually a commercial now with some new drug that gets rid of tardive dyskinesia. So my cousin Tommy actually had this. He kind of had like a permanent grimace on his face and his tongue stuck out like all the way, like beyond his teeth, like at all times. And even when they switched his medication, he had this side effect for about 2 years before it resolved. So once the person develops tardive dyskinesia, they can have it for, unfortunately, several years until they get their medication squared away. So it can include, the person sticking out their tongue, chewing, thrusting their pelvis, smacking their lips, grunting. So, just think of, the thrusting your pelvis tick, is that person maybe going to get in trouble with the criminal justice system? What if they're thrusting their pelvis outside of a playground, or a park? But this is uncontrollable. So this is where we come to what can we do? So the National Center for State Court actually just came out with a leading change guide for state court leaders when it comes to leading meaningful change with to improve the court's response to the mental health crisis and co-occurring disorders. So they obviously recommend, a cross-sector and community-based approach. They, recommend building tools with local and state government and local social service agencies. So what we need to ask ourselves is, what are we doing to address this crisis? Do we provide the tools our employees need to even interact with this population? Do we have the tools to interact with this population? So ask yourself, do your employees know your community resources? Do they know, if someone presents at the window, if I ask them, oh, do you work with anyone? Does this person, I'm just going to name ours. Like, we have Jewish Family Services and Volunteers of America and AtlantiCare. So our employees have been coached to say, oh, are you working with anyone? Do you have a worker with JFS, Volunteers of America or AtlantiCare? And then, if the person says, yeah, JFS, like, they know JFS's numbers, so they can call and say, Bob was at the courthouse today. He missed his court date. It's now on Tuesday. Can you please make sure you get him here? Or he didn't seem in a good state. Can you maybe go check on him? So do your employees know that they can call a supervisor when the communication breaks down and they need assistance? Do they know who that best supervisor is? It usually came to me, but every unit has someone that is just good at talking to people, with all people. Like, do your employees know who that person is? Are you encouraging self-care? I always tell new employees I expect nothing but superior customer service and absolute access and fairness to everyone that walks through the door. But if someone starts cursing at you and becomes abusive, I don't want you to interact with that person anymore. Go and get a supervisor. I don't expect you to be abused. And if if you've been working the counter all day and you've dealt with 9 difficult people and number 10 comes up at 3:30, it's okay for you to go and get a coworker and be like, I can't take another one. We need to encourage our employees to practice self-care. We need to give them that option to tap out. You know, we can't have a supervisor saying, no, handle it yourself, that's your job. You know, if they're doing that on every single person, you know, but I mean, if they're really giving the college try, and sometimes, you know, sometimes people just reach their end. And are we providing training to our employees? So the handout that's in the app, hopefully we have a contract in New Jersey with LinkedIn Learning. Hopefully your court does as well. I did provide a list of LinkedIn Learnings that are very relevant. And a couple websites you can go to, and I provided some handouts that you can use for staff. So what your action plan is going to be is to identify your community resources when you get back. Get names, numbers, contacts. Find out if they can come to the courthouse if someone is in a crisis. Does anyone know what WIIFM is? What's in it for me? So this is like the motto I live by, what's in it for me. So we have community partners that will come to the courthouse if we call them and say that, you know, someone is in crisis, and they will respond. You know, takes 15 to 30 minutes. We try to like occupy the person, and they will kind of like take over at that point if the person is really in a crisis. So, you know, and then you know, for that social service agency, we help them like, you know, oh, Joe missed his court date. Can you like recall his bench warrant and give him a new date? I'll make sure he gets there. So you always have to say, look, like we need you to do this, but this is what we can do for you. We can look people up. If you can get somebody into treatment, we can get their court dates postponed so they can go to treatment. You know, if they're somewhere, we can get it converted to Zoom. So you always have to tell those partners like what you can provide for them in return. Provide support and encourage training. Be okay with employees tapping out, and also make sure you have a good supervisor that can do this, that also has training in each of your units. So this, I downloaded the wrong PowerPoint. So everybody heard me talk about my cousin Tommy. So unfortunately, he did pass away in March. He was 52 years old. He actually passed away 4 days after I did this presentation for about 100 municipal court employees. So unfortunately, there are not a lot of 80-year-olds who have schizophrenia. You know, the medication they take is very damaging to their system. They're, you know, not the best at taking care of themselves. I think Tommy smoked 3 packs of cigarettes a day. I mean, I'm sure he wasn't like, you know, vegan and exercising, you know, so they don't tend to live very long lives. So his obituary only had his high school graduation picture. He did not like having his picture taken after he was diagnosed, especially after he got the tardive dyskinesia. And his obituary solely highlighted what he did during high school. You know, he had a 500, you know, batting average. He won this baseball award. He was on the honor roll. Not much after that. And all my aunt and uncle decided to say about his diagnosis was he disliked his challenging circumstances. So although they did come around, you know, they still did have, you know, there's still a stigma there, unfortunately. And sometimes they did have trouble, you know, dealing with it themselves. So we need to communicate in an individualized way. So just be prepared to spend extra time. You have to go the extra mile. You have to be patient. You know, no legalese. Use clear, direct, short sentences. Listen to their verbal and nonverbal cues, but also be aware of your own. You know, like I sat forward in most of the videos, but that sets some people off. So you kind of have to gauge each situation individually. Just remember, the person may not get all the information that you have. Always have a follow-up plan to contact someone, give them written information. And don't force communication if the person is withdrawn. They can write their problem down, or you can say, why don't you come back, you know, in a couple days, you know, here's my name and number. I'll be here on Tuesday, you know, come anytime on Tuesday, I'll help you then. Active reflective listening. I'm not a big fan of I understand, although I can try to understand what it's like to see a spaceship and, hear voices. I mean, we can imagine it, but we still really don't know what that person's reality is. I really like I hear ya. I say I hear ya a lot. I say don't worry, we'll fix this together. We'll work this out together. That seems to help a lot. So sorry, this is misspelled. So I came up with a mnemonic, extra. Just extra time, extra mile. Treat the person obviously with dignity and respect. That definitely goes a long way. They know whether they're being mistreated or not. Recognize their reality. And then again, my biggest advice is listening between the lines. Oh, so this is the picture of my cousin. Sorry, I had the wrong order. So does anyone have any questions? Oh, thank you. Can I go over? Oh, that's why there's no questions. It's 2:45 on the